Hello and welcome back to Tech and EduSpark Hub, where technology meets education. If you saw or come across our recent shorts, you already got a sneak peek of the discount calculator we'll be building. Today, I'm going to take you behind the scene to show you the full step-by-step tutorial, and by the end of this video, you won't just watch it in action. You will actually build it yourself. So stick around to the end because I've got some bonus tips to make your project even smarter. To start this project, we can simply prompt the user to know what this project is all about. And to do this, we can simply use the print function and prompt the user welcome to the Python discounts. And this way, we have successfully let the user know what this program is all about. And when we run this code, you can see it has prompted the user welcome to the Python discount calculator. The next step is to ask the user what is the total amount, but since we will be expecting a response or an input from the user, definitely we'll be using the input function here. So we can simply prompt the user by asking the user what is the total amount. And this way, the user can be able to enter an input or a response to these lines of code. And to get a hold of this user input, we can easily assign this line of code to a variable, and we can name the variable total amount. And this way, whatever the user inputs to these lines of code, we can easily get a hold of it using this variable called total amount. You can name it a different variable you want, but I'm naming it total amount because I feel this is the easiest variable name I can give to these lines of code. But because the user will be entering a number data type, we have to declare these lines of code as a number data type, because currently as it is right now, it is on string data type. And to declare this line of code to a number data type, we have two number data types, which are just the integer and the floats. So because the user can enter a decimal number or a whole number, we can easily just use a float data type to these lines of code. And to declare this as a float data type, we can easily put the float function in the front of this input function. And this way, whatever number the user enter, either a whole number or a decimal number, we can easily get a hold of it without our code raising an error messages. So when we run this code, you can see it is going to expect an input from the user. What is the total amount? I can enter any amount I want. And when I click on enter on the keyboard button, you can see our code run with 0 error messages. So this is the importance of the float function. And to get a hold of this user input, this is where the total amount variable comes in. But from the template in our shot as shown on the screen, we can see that we have to make the user to make the input on another paragraph with a $ currency starting the paragraph. You can decide to use any currency sign you want, but here in my case, I'll be using the $ currency. And to do this, we have to work on the paragraph first and remember the function of the backslash and the end character, which make us to enter an input on a new paragraph. And to put this in our code, we can just simply put the backslash and the end character before the closing of our string. And this way, if I run this code, it is going to make the user to enter the input on a new paragraph. And notice the backslash and the end character is before the closing of our string and not at the back of the closing of our string. Let's say I put this at the back of the closing of our string. You can see our code has raised an error message with the red squiggly line. And to fix this, we can just simply get rid of this backslash and the end character and put it before the closing of our string. And this way, when I run this code, you can see it is asking us what is the total amount. And when I try to enter an amount in front of the code, you can see it is going to take me back to a new paragraph. And this way, we have settled the first case, which make the user to enter the inputs on a new paragraph. And to make the $ currency to start the new paragraph, we can just simply add the $ as a string before the closing of our string. And when I run this code, you can see the $ currency is already starting the new paragraph as shown on the console. And notice that I did not add any space between the $ currency and the backslash character, because if I add space, let's say I had a space here, When I run this code, you can see the space I added has already reflected on our console. And this is why I did not add any space before the backslash and the dollar sign. So we can just go to correct that. And when I run this code, you can see it is making the dollar sign currency to appear in front of the new paragraph and expecting the user to make an input here. And when I click on enter, you can see our code just finished running without any error messages. We have just completed the second part and we'll be moving to the third part now. And make sure you don't skip this because this is where we'll be getting the percentage discount the user wants to give. And to get the percentage discount, we can simply prompt the user to ask the user how many percent discount do you want to give. And since we'll be expecting a response or an input from the user, we can simply use the input function to ask the user how many percent discounts do you want to give. And this way, we have successfully prompted the user to ask the user how many percent discount do you want to give as seen on our short template. And to get a hold of this user input or the percentage discount the user will input to these lines of code, we can simply assign these lines of code to another variable called percent. And this way, whatever the user inputs to these lines of code or whatever the user inputs as a percentage discount, we can easily get a hold of it using this variable called percent. And since the user will be entering a number data type, let's say the user enter a 5% or 5.5%, we have to declare this input or these lines of code as a number data type. And we can just use the float number data type because the user can enter a decimal or a whole number to these lines of code. So we can just simply put the floating point function here as seen on the screen. And this way, if the user enter a decimal number as the percentage discount or a whole number as the percentage discount, this floating function will cover up for either one of the two. You can decide to use an integer data type, but I prefer to use the floating data type here because the user can enter a decimal to this line of code or a whole number and the floating point number will cover up for both. Because if I use an integer function here, if the user enter a decimal point number, the code might raise an error messages. So that's why I prefer using the float point number data type. And as shown on the template, we have to make the user to make the input on another paragraph with a percentage sign starting the new paragraph. And to solve this, we can just easily do what we did in the second part to this third part by putting a backslash and a hen character before the closing of our string. And this way, it will make the user to enter the input on a new paragraph. And we can just easily put the percentage sign to make the percentage sign to start the new paragraph. So when we run this code, you can see it is asking us to enter an amount by saying what is the total amount. So when I enter an amount, let's say I enter 200 and I click on enter, you can see it is asking us how many percent discount do you want to give. And here in my case, I'll be entering a percentage. And notice that the percentage sign is starting the new paragraph, which means our code is all right. So when I click on a percentage, let's say I use 10.5%. When I click on enter, you can see everything is all doing well without any error. It is advisable to always test your code or run your code in case there is any bug in your code. You can easily detect it and fix it, unlike writing loads of code without testing it, which make debugging hard to do in case there is any bug in our code. We have just laid the foundation, and here is where it gets more interesting because in this next step, I'll be showing you how to calculate the percentage discount in real time and display it to the user for the user to get a hold of it. To calculate the total price on discount, we have to get the discount price first because it is the discount price that will subtract from the total amount to display to the user the new total price on discount. This is just like the normal maths or the normal calculation we do in high school. And to perform this calculation, we have to note one thing because the Python calculation works on a sequence and the sequence is called PEDMAS, which means parentheses, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. And this sequence is just that the parentheses or brackets comes first before the exponents, and the exponent comes first before the division, and the division comes first before the multiplication, and so on. And this is how the Python calculation works in sequence. And to get this discount price, we have to set a variable called discount price. and we can assign it with the equal sign to whatever we want to assign it to. And here in my case, just like the normal calculation we do in high school, we can say the percent divided by 100 multiplied by the total amount. And what this means is that we want the percentage or the input that the user makes to this line of code in line 3 to be divided by 100 and multiply it with the total amount the user entered initially to this line of code in line 2. And this way we can easily get the discount price. And just like I said earlier, the Python calculation works in sequence. So to do this, we can just easily put this in a bracket, which implies it is going to calculate what is in this bracket first or this parenthesis first before multiplying it by the total amount. This percent is standing for the inputs that the user will make to this percentage discount. So we have to get the percentage discount and divide it by 100 and multiply it by the total amount the user entered initially. And to test if this is working, we can just easily print the discount price. And this way, when we run this code, you can see it is going to ask us to make an input. What is the amount? And I'll be entering a initial amount, which is 200. And it is going to ask us what is the discount price or how many percent discount do you want to give. Let me just put 10.5% here. And when I run this code, you can see it has printed out the discount price for me. And this way, everything is all working good with no errors. But we don't need to print out the discount price because this is not what we are finding. I'm just printing it out to show us that the code is working all good with no errors, and that's why I'm printing out the discount price. But what we need this discount price for is to subtract it from the total amount to get the total price on discount to display to the user. And to do this, we can just easily get rid of the print function. We can set a new variable called the new price, and we can assign it with the equal sign to say the total amount minus the discount price. And this way we can easily get the total price on discount to display to the user. But we have initially declared all our inputs to a floating point number data type, which means this new price can give us a several number of decimal places. And to avoid all this, we can easily just round this up to a 2 decimal places. And to round this up, we can simply use the round function in front of this variable, and we can use the comma to specify the number of decimal places we want. And in my case, I'll be using the 2 decimal places. And we can print the new price. And when we run this code, you can see it is going to ask us what is the amount, and I'll be entering an amount. And it is going to ask us how many percent discount do you want to give, and I'll be entering a percent. So let me just use 10.5 here. And when I run this code, you can see it has given us the new price or the total price in discount, which is 179. But we have to prompt the user to make them understand what this new total price on discount is all about. And to do this, we can just easily erase this new price by using a string to prompt the user by saying your total price on discount is, and to put this new price in this string, we can see this new price is a number data type, which means to combine a number data type with a string data type, we have to use the f string so as not to have any error in our code. So we can just use the curly brackets to put this new price in our f string, and this way we won't get any error in our code because this is the magic of the f string, which makes us to combine different data types together. So here in our case, we are combining a string data type with a number data type, and this is the power of the f string. So here now we can decide to put a dollar currency string in front of this new price, so it can display the dollar currency sign we have been putting in our code initially. So when we run this code and enter an amount, let's say I enter 200 for a case, and click on enter on the keyboard button, it is going to ask how many percent discount you want to give. Let's say I put 10.5%. When I click on enter, you can see it says your total price on discount is $179. So this way we have successfully built our Python discount calculator. And hey, you are just starting out and some parts might feel a bit confusing. Don't worry at all, that is completely normal. Remember, coding is like learning a new language. It takes practice. You can always pause, rewind, or even go back to revise what we have already covered until it clicks. The more you try, the better you get at it, and I promise it will make sense with time. And if you found this tutorial helpful, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next project. And drop a comment if you built your own calculator. I love to see how it turned out. And if you came here from the short review, stick around because I have got more step-by-step tutorial like this coming up your way. And I will see you in the next lesson. And until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and let's keep building together.